is the biggest property scam in 2025. There's a lot of newbie investors that are getting scammed daily by property influencers and wannabe trainers. So I decided to utterly expose these dodgy schemes once and for all so that you can spot the red flags before parting with your hard-earned money. They all have one thing in common. They are Ponzi schemes disguised as helping people learn about property whilst also earning at the same time. Earn and learn, as some of them call it, but it is in fact a giant Ponzi scheme which always ends in devastation. They're usually headed up by excellent marketers, but who are actually completely broke. But they lure you in with their fake, flashy, rented lifestyle. Now, just to be clear, there's nothing wrong with enjoying money, but you can tell, I can anyway, when someone's trying to overcompensate and they're using their rented Lamborghini or Porsche, but they pretend they're rich so that you will lend them money. You think your money is going into their property investment project where you can learn and earn, but maybe only later you find out that you didn't read the contract. And actually, your money went in just to funding their fake designer clothes, their leased swanky offices, and their freelanced fake members of staff to continue to build their Ponzi scheme. They're also continually banging on these people about how genuine they are. I'm sorry, but anybody that continually tells you, I'm so genuine, I'm a straight talker, let me be honest with you, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm so trustworthy. And did I tell you that I'm 100% genuine? Is probably less genuine than Charles Ponzi himself. And they're usually so dodgy that even their own shadow wouldn't trust them. So how can you tell if these people are actually rich or if they're just big fat fakers? If they're based in the UK and they invest in the UK, their company accounts will be publicly available on Companies House. So here's what you want to look for. You want to look for profit. Because if they're just borrowing money and renting their flashy lifestyle, they won't have any actual profit showing on their accounts, just debts, charges, and overdue accounts. My account, for the record, you can go on Companies House and you can look at my many different companies and you'll see I'm making millions of pounds of profit every single year. And you can see that my accounts aren't micro accounts from a micro company. I have dozens of employees, but this isn't about me. This is about you doing due diligence. If you're a newbie, successful property entrepreneur who owns a few houses and got started last year, I wouldn't expect to see much on Companies House. But for the property influencers claiming to be multi-millionaires with years of experience, when their accounts clearly reveal that they're not, it's just an embarrassment. And if you're giving them your money on a loan for an earn and learn, you almost deserve to lose it. And when challenged why they look so broke on Companies House, they might claim that they've got a pension, private trust fund, or overseas companies that hold their properties. It's all hidden. But this is utter horse manure. I know because I myself have SAS pensions, private funds, as well as overseas properties and offshore accounts. But I didn't do this until much later on in my business. If you start making above £10 million per year, then it might make sense to begin to have these sort of complex structures, such as a trust. But there's no way that an influencer with £17,000 showing as their profit last year would ever dream of setting up a trust. It doesn't make any sense. They're lying in order to explain away their absolute lack of wealth and zero evidence of any success. Even the pictures of their property projects on their website and on their social medias are actually completely fake. Learn to use Google image search and just search the photos that they use on their website and on their social media. And you'll often find that these properties are not even linked to them. They're either unfinished projects, they're overseas, they're just lying. So what exactly is their scheme? Why would they lie about their wealth? Well, let me tell you how a Ponzi scheme works. It's simple. They borrow money from investors and offer to give guaranteed returns. On top of these returns, they may offer to include free access to some of their training courses or mentorship and give you confidence that you're investing in their well-established team, right? The problem is, the money that you give them doesn't go into any property projects. the property projects don't exist, or at very least, are a very small part of their actual business. They use all of your money just to live their life and rent their Lambos. And on the contract, there won't be a full address which shows what the project is. They might offer themselves up as personal guarantors to back your money. But that doesn't mean anything because they don't have any wealth and are massively in debt themselves. Any assets they do have may even be held in family members' names to avoid being liable to have to pay you back. And like any good Ponzi scheme, they'll pay you back to begin with, but not from the profits of the property deals, with the new loans from new investors, because there's no actual product. The scheme relies solely on investors coming in to pay back old investors. And eventually, a Ponzi scheme is always doomed to fail because the debt gets bigger and bigger, and at some point, the top dog will either do a runner or get arrested, because the punishment for running a Ponzi scheme in the UK is prison time of up to 10 years. So does this mean that you should never invest in anybody else's property deals? No. It means that you should just do your research on the individual in question that's asking you for money. Are they running a Ponzi scheme? Are they what they say they are? Make sure you have proper security if investing more money than you can afford to lose. And don't assume that their personal guarantor means anything just because they pretend to own their fancy Porsche or Lamborghini outright, because it's probably leased. If they were so rich and they were worth millions, like they often say, I'm a multi-millionaire. If they were really so rich, why would they bother borrowing money from you? If they've got a really good profitable scheme, they just reinvest their profits back into the scheme themselves and get compound interest. It doesn't make any sense. No billionaire has ever begged their students to loan them £10,000 or £20,000. And by all means, partner with property professionals, collaborate with other people when it makes sense to do so. Joint venture, absolutely. But just don't be duped by sleazy salesmen, and always make sure that you do your research on the individual in question before investing your money. So here are some obvious red flags to look out for. Firstly, don't invest in a company that no longer exists. I'm not even joking. I know people sending money to companies that have been closed down. Go on Companies House and it will say, you'll see if their accounts are all late and overdue and in a mess and in a shambles, what their profits are. This should be the first thing that you check before investing money into somebody that's telling you they're going to give you guaranteed returns. Next, their contracts. Their contracts, if they're dodgy, will miss crucial information such as the address of the property. They can't tell you that. It's all a bit elusive. They've only got a handful of properties and they keep using them to borrow. So they won't want to show you the property. They won't give you any proof of security. If they say their security is themselves because they're so rich, then ask them, how rich are you? Can you demonstrate it? Can you prove it? And if they get offended by that question and they're all sensitive, then there's a little bit of a red flag. Also, look at the contract and say, what are the penalties if they don't pay you back? Some of these contracts, it might say it's a 12-month contract or it's a 24-month contract. And I'll pay you X, 20% a year, 10% a year, whatever. Okay, fine. But what happens if it goes over? Oh, well, if it goes over, then it goes over. And it will literally say in the contract, if it goes over, then it goes over. It's like, okay, but is there a penalty? What exactly am I going to get if it goes over? And how long could it go over for? Could it just keep going on and on and on and on until you die? Are you literally borrow, spend, die? Is that the game plan? And I'm just a sucker being leached into your scheme where you're... Read the contracts. If they're saying that they've got leases with social housing providers, but they won't tell you who the provider is, kind of a red flag. And people are signing these and giving tens of thousands of pounds. They literally could never get their money back. And there's nothing they can do about it. And this is happening in the property community a lot in 2025. And I feel like I have a duty not to name and shame the person or people doing this. In fact, the main person that I'm thinking of when filming this video is somebody who's actively taking money to this day. And I can't name him necessarily because my solicitors advised me not to. Maybe one day. Maybe you know who I'm talking about. You can put it in the comments maybe. But instead, I even offered to debate this person. I said, come on my channel and let's have a discussion about this. And he declined. So as fun as naming the person might be, I think it's actually more beneficial for you to learn yourself how to think and take the training in this video to do your own research when one of these Ponzi fraudsters next adds you on Instagram like a poisonous leech. Check their company's account, ask them these questions, read the contracts, see if they're actually worth what they say they're worth, because that's how they work. They swim around the property training sector like a bad smell, trying to sell you into their world of dreams that will inevitably become a world of nightmares. Just act courageous but knowledgeable with investments, courses, and kosher schemes.